Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of PodTC. I know it's been a little bit busy semester, but we are here for a good one today. I met with a couple of friends from Franklin University, Jennifer and Erica, who are both community college regional managers on Franklin's Community College Alliance team, something like that. So I'll let them get into more about that here soon. But how are you both doing today?
We're
Good.
great.
Thank you for
Great.
having us.
No,
Yes.
thank you for being here. I'm sure this will get into this a little bit later, but you guys have a podcast as well. So some of the questions are going to be, this podcast is going to be about another podcast, and they had me on that podcast. So that episode will be released at some point. So now they're returning the favor. So I cashed in finally. But to get things started, we usually just like to hear a little bit about each of our guests. So if you could just tell me a little bit about yourselves, they know where you work, but maybe where you went to school or anything else that you would like to share. Jennifer, how about you start us off? Because Jay is listed first on the document.
Sounds good. Yes, as you mentioned, my name's Jennifer Mack. I'm one of the regional managers for Franklin, and I have had the honor and privilege of working for Franklin for 11 years now. And I started my higher education journey. It's been 17 years now in higher ed, so I really enjoy higher education. Went to Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and stayed in the area. Received my master's degree from Ashford in higher ed, and here we are now.
Sweet, 17 years.
I
Wow.
know it's
Yeah.
gone fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
11 at Franklin. Very cool.
Yeah.
Erica.
My
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say there it was funny because I went and did my undergrads in public relations and marketing, and my senior year, writing my resume, my advisor was amazing. And I said, I want to do what you do. And at that point it was too late to change anything. So I went and obviously pursued a master's in higher ed. So
Yeah,
I
worked out.
enjoy
I
it.
was an RA, so I was doomed to get into higher education. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
all right, Erica.
Yeah. I'm Erica Miller, Community College Regional Manager, obviously. I haven't been with Franklin as long as Jennifer. I've been here, I think, maybe 5 years, but I have been in higher ed forever, like Jennifer. Prior to Franklin, I worked at Columbus State. Um, and I worked in a lot of different positions there, but I started in their prison programs and I ended in financial aid. And so I feel like nothing scares me. Like those are two very, very interesting roles. So, and lots of good stuff in the middle too. But um, yeah, that's kind of my background.
Cool. Well, you've both been in higher education for a while, so a wealth of knowledge. So hopefully we can get a good feel of how kind of like working with community college and transfer students works at Franklin, and then we'll kind of dive into your guys' podcast. So really, I think a lot of us would maybe be familiar with how someone in like admissions or enrollment management works at a lot of colleges. So when we think about like schools and territories and stuff that you guys cover. So can you tell me a little bit about the territories and schools that you cover and maybe what a typical like work day or work week looks for you both?
So Franklin operates a little unique. There's what, a total of five, six of us that travel. We have different territories. It is sometimes ever changing, but for the most part, we've stayed with the majority of our schools for a length of period of time. But for me, I travel up the 75 corridor. So I hit Sinclair Community College, Rhodes, Edison, Owens, and then I also do go over to Clark State and Springfield. Something else that's kind of unique is we actually have national schools as well. We do not travel to those schools unless, needed, but we do have that virtual relationship with them. So,
Mhm.
and a typical work day, it really depends on the semester. I mean, in transfer, fall is crazy. You're at two events at one time. You're putting in all the hours and all of that. Summer's a little quieter. We're more virtual in the summer, conducting student appointments, and then spring's pretty busy too, but definitely not as two events at one day kind of thing. So, but yeah, I personally, I'm on the road typically 3 to 4 days a week, and then whenever schools might need me on that fifth day if need be. So that's kind
Cool.
of my take on it.
I would um I would co-sign with everything Jennifer said. I guess it's Central Ohio. I guess that's what it's called. My primary school is Columbus State. I also do Central Ohio Technical College. And then I only have one more. I mean, Jennifer is just better than me. She can juggle more schools,
Stop.
I guess. My furthest school is actually Hocking. And like Jennifer said, I don't do as much as Jennifer needs a raise. Um, I typically travel Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's how I like, unless I need to be somewhere Monday and Friday. But yeah, similar thing, national schools that we reach out to as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And you guys even have, like, there's the ones of you that do the road traveling, and then you have some advisors that just, maybe I shouldn't say advisors, but the regional managers that literally work from home 5 days a week, right?
Correct. Enrollment advisors. Yes, you're
Okay.
right. Yeah, which is helpful for us because we didn't have enrollment advisors until what, a year and a half ago now?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
And they've really added a lot of value to our team because, we can't be everywhere and conduct student appointments at the same time, especially during
Right.
travel season. So, and you never know when you're going to get stuck in traffic, when your visit runs longer because a student comes up. So it's really hard to say that your hard stops at 2 and you'll be home by 4:30. So they've
Yeah.
really added a lot of value to our team.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good structure.
Yeah. Well, this one's then just for Jennifer. Can you tell me a little bit about Franklin's unique approach to transfer students? I know that there's some things that we've already been saying, but I would love to hear more about like the pathway portal and things like that.
Sure. So Franklin University is unique in the sense that we have blanket articulation agreements with our schools. What I like to say is it's imagine an umbrella. You have your umbrella and all of our courses, they'll just fit right under that umbrella. So it makes it easier to work with students. If they took a bio class or a humanities and we know we need to fulfill those areas, we can obviously put them in within that structure. So that's helpful for transfer. Additionally, I often work with students that maybe are transferring from another 4 year and we haven't evaluated their music theory class and they need humanities credit. So we're able to evaluate that for them and hopefully get some transfer credit in and everything. We started though 4 years ago what's called the Pathway Portal. Edison State Community College was our pilot school, and I had the privilege and honor, I keep saying that, but privilege and honor to work with Edison State during that launch process and see all the behind the scenes of it and everything. And it was really neat how it came together. But the portal marries the two institutions together and shows students real time how all of their transfer credit will come to Franklin before even applying. So it's a good way to shop Franklin and see if it's a good fit for you. You can opt in, opt out at any point. And once you hit 50 credit hours at your community college, you can click the one-click application within the portal and it feeds everything over from your community college, which is nice. The
Yeah.
other cool thing is once a student has their associate degree, they're in the pathway portal, they receive a tuition benefit of $298 per credit hour. So that saves them $100 per credit hour at Franklin. And if they do everything that we tell them to do the way we tell them to do it, you can get your bachelor's degree for under $9,000 at Franklin with bridge work. So it's a great benefit.
Yeah, that is a great benefit. How
Yeah.
many, do you know off the top of your head how many schools you have the pathway portal with now? Am I going to get you in trouble if I ask that?
No, we have a majority of our Ohio schools. We have the Kentucky system. We have Pennsylvania. We have some schools in Pennsylvania. And then you, Erica, don't you have Davis and Davy?
We do
They're
have Davis and
in
Davy in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I was trying to figure out somewhere we have right on the top of our computers the exact number of schools, but
You don't need to know the exact, it's a lot. So let's
Yeah,
just say a lot.
it
So
is.
there's
It
quite a
a
is.
few
lot.
schools.
Yes.
So it's all over Ohio and many of the surrounding states. So that's really awesome. Because I mean, you guys just said you piloted that just a few years ago. So
Right.
it's almost spread like that in just a short period of time. I'm sure it'll continue, or I would think so. So
And
it's a
we're
great
always
benefit for
looking
students.
for new schools as well. So, if there's
Yeah.
someone in the podcast universe that wants to take advantage of that benefit, they can reach out and we can always explore that for new schools as well.
Yeah.
And it's free
Great.
for the schools to do it. The only thing on their end is the coding side of it, the implementations and all that. But otherwise, it's not like we're charging schools for anything. It's just a free tool that we have set up.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Good pitch.
We love
Thanks.
the portal. If you call a Franklin person to come to your school, you're going to hear about the portal. That's what we
Yeah.
talk about
All the time.
all the time.
If you're not in the portal, we're trying to find ways to get you in the portal.
Right.
Good sales pitch. So Erica, what do you think makes Franklin a great institution for transferring adult students to finish their bachelor's degrees?
Well, I think the portal is, again, the portal,
The
but
portal.
the
Yeah.
portal is the good example of our commitment to being as transfer friendly as we can. And on a personal note, I was a transfer student. I did it absolutely wrong. I went to a school for a couple years and I said, I don't like it here. And so I just drove myself home. I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't tell my admissions, my advisor, nothing. I just packed my car and I was like, I'm done with this. Students do not do that. And so I ended up basically starting over. So part of what I like about working at Franklin is that I have the ability to help students not be in that situation. And we have a really good model for being as transfer friendly as possible. Um, I always say we're not, no school can be everything to everybody, but if you care about transfer, if you care about affordability, if you want your classes to count towards your next degree, we're a really good option to explore. So that's why I believe in Franklin as far as a transfer option.
Yeah, and as far as I mean, I think transfer students all around usually appreciate, but especially maybe the quote unquote adult student, all of your programs have online option, right? To complete.
Yep, you can do everything online. And we cater to working adults. So even if you are in Central Ohio and you want to take something in person, it's going to be evenings or weekends. You don't have to worry about, quitting your job to take
Yeah.
classes. So it's a really good option. Again, if that's what you're going for, if that's your concern, we're a good option for that.
Yeah. Cool. So let's switch over to the podcast because that's a fun topic. So, Jennifer, can you tell me more about, well, can you tell just the general audience about the podcast? And then what are maybe some of the different topics that you guys are covering?
Sure. So Eric and I launched our podcast. It was in December. We've been recording guests for almost a little over a year now. So we wanted to make sure we got ahead of recording because we knew travel season was coming up, all that. But it's called Destination Success. It's on all of the platforms, Spotify, Apple, all of that. But we try to make it pretty general, but also bring in transfer, if that makes sense. We want to just educate whoever's listening on maybe student success stories, student trials and tribulations, faculty and staff talking about their programs, talking about the different tools that we have to offer. As you mentioned, we've had you on before regarding OTC. So really just trying to educate whoever's listening on transfer, Franklin, but just overall business, how to overcome things. So it's a pretty general transfer podcast.
Yeah. No, it's been exciting to hear more and more about it as it's been coming out. So, Erica, how do you guys like pick guests and who really is like the intended audience or audiences of the podcast?
Oh, geez, we don't know. I'm just kidding. We know, kind of. Um,
Kind of.
I think what's been kind of cool about this whole process, and Jennifer, back me up here, is that we had no idea what we were doing. And Franklin was like, go ahead and try it. Let's see if it works. Um, and so it's been a lot of fun. And I think we have learned quite a bit. The audience is anybody that wants to listen. I think primarily, though, we are focused on students and professionals in the field. Um, and then as far as guests are concerned, my hope, and Jennifer, again, jump in here if I'm wrong, but my hope is that we're talking to people that are interesting in what they're talking. Like if you care about that topic, you're interested, but even if you don't, it's an interesting enough conversation. So we have one coming up that I'm really excited about. It's a faculty member in our sports management exercise science major. And she is, I feel like that's a topic that if you're in that major, super interesting. Yeah, let's hear from the faculty. But the other aspect of that is she's like a professional, I'm probably going to mess it up, but she's like a world known weightlifter. Um, and so like even if you don't care about that, like that's kind of cool, like
It is cool.
let's
Yeah.
hear how you did that. And you're in Columbus, Ohio, teaching at, Franklin University. Who would have guessed it? Um, and so I think that's an example of like what we hope to do each time, which is yes, if you're interested in sports management, exercise science, you're tuning in because this is your opportunity to hear from a faculty member. But even if you're not, hopefully we're talking to interesting people and having interesting conversations that are still fun to listen to,
Mhm.
like Jonathan Gates from the Ohio Transfer Council.
I don't know
Which
how
by
interesting that was, but thank you.
which for
It
those
is
of you
airing.
listening, it
It is
will
airing
launch,
soon.
yes, in
So, what
June
is it, June? Okay, thanks,
ahead of
Jennifer.
the
I
OTC
remember.
conference.
Yes, thank you for that plug. The OTC conference, of course, being June 12th and 13th, I think. Yes. So you guys should have gotten information about that in your email already, or you can hop onto the OTC website and there is some conference information there. So funny enough, it's at Franklin this year. So it's a good tie into this episode and what we're doing. So we hope to see you guys all there. Yeah, I always ask well, I don't always ask the question, but when I'm talking to people that also have a podcast, it's always just like, so like, is there any rhyme or reason to how you pick out guests and topics? And usually it's just like, it's whatever we're feeling right around that time. And it's just like, me
Yeah,
too. So I'm glad to know
yeah,
that I'm in good company when it comes to that.
yeah.
Or
Just
good
looking for interesting
recommendations.
people.
Yeah, I do love recommendations. So to anyone out there, I'm sure all three of us can say like, if you are doing something interesting and you want to talk about it, please come on to one of the podcasts. I think that, we'd be nice to each other and we both want that for each other. So I would love to have some genuine, people who are curious about something or are really excited about something that they're doing, because it is tough to think of some of these topics sometimes and keep out the content. So um, just good to be in good company for sure. Uh,
Agree.
yeah, Jennifer, could you tell me about maybe some of the long-term goals that you guys have for this podcast?
To have listeners. No, I'm just kidding. We do. We have listeners. No,
Yeah,
it's funny you bring that up because I feel like we just started getting comfortable with the editing, the publishing, the
yeah,
guests. I shouldn't say we haven't thought long term, but we somewhat haven't in a way other than just trying to get it off the ground, get it successful, all of those.
yeah,
But just making people aware of it. I try to educate people, like especially if there's our last episode, Mary Buckles, she was an alum of Clark State. So I made sure to send the podcast information out to all of Clark State. Hey, one of your alumni is on our
yeah,
podcast, just trying to bring the awareness out. And that's the tricky thing with podcasts is I think trying to figure out what that niche is, and trying to get it
sure.
to kick off. So, I mean, I don't see it going anywhere. I'm actually enjoying it as well. It's kind of been nice to learn something different and give you just a break from the everyday, transfer travels, all that. So it's been good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but gives
Well,
you
I
an
think it
idea.
does. It's almost just like, it's a good idea to get it off the ground, and then where it takes you could be you might not have known that at the beginning, or you're still figuring. I think that that's a completely appropriate answer. Certainly,
Yep.
that's how I've always been with PodTC. So we just did
Right.
it because we thought webinars are tough to always coordinate, and especially post-pandemic, it's really hard to get everyone sitting down at the same time. So you guys talk about how you have been recording for quite a long time now, and you just started releasing them, not just started, but like you've been doing that since December. So you had a stockpile. And that's super nice because that interview or that what episode, whatever you want to call it, can just be released whenever you've got time to get it all done and released, or it can be on a schedule or whatever. So if there's, anyone thinking about doing this for your school or something, it's probably something that is manageable, because you guys are talking about when you guys are traveling, it's really hard to juggle everything, right? And I feel the same way when I'm traveling, and others I'm sure do as well. this is a really potentially great tool for you guys to get some information out there. So uh,
Agree.
I
And
think,
having that stockpile has helped us actually, I feel, because
yeah,
then it's not that pressure of we need to get a guest, edit, post, publish, all of
Right.
that. So
yeah,
yeah, we have
Yeah.
everything published out now. It's kind of nice.
yeah. You guys are better than me. So we're going to turn it back over to Erica. Are there any metrics that you use to track the success of the podcast, or is there anything that you might think in the future that you'll use as a potential metric for success?
Um, so we use a platform. Um, it's LibSync. Is that right, Jennifer? I think that's how you pronounce it. And so it keeps track of our listeners. Since we're still fairly new, I think we're just trying to be better each time. Um, I don't know that we
Hmm.
necessarily like we definitely want listeners. Please listen. But you know, again, another thing that I think that's hard with podcasts is that whether people listen or not does not determine how good the podcast was, you know.
Sure.
Um, so there's that piece to it. Um, but I think I don't know about Jennifer. My personal goal is just for each episode to be better than the last episode. And better means more more information, flowed a little easier, hopefully more listeners, good information being put out. I think Jennifer will co-sign, and you probably know, Jonathan, the first podcast was a little rough, it was a little, um, what's the word I want? Just kind of,
There's a learning curve for sure.
Right.
yeah, yeah. And once you kind of get the flow, it's a lot better. It's more conversational. It just
Yeah.
goes in different directions that you didn't expect. So that's what personally I want each episode. Each episode I want to be like, this was better than the one before, not because of the guest necessarily, but because Jennifer and I were better.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
I agree.
and
I mean,
and
your guys'
hopefully,
first episode was probably better than mine. So,
But you know, it's
aw,
interesting. That
thanks.
wasn't the first episode.
yeah.
Oh, that's true. It wasn't.
We'd already recorded about a half a dozen by then.
Yeah, that's true.
But thank you.
So no, that's because it's not always about views, and I like how you look at it that way. Because also I think about like maybe in higher ed more in general, like there's certainly certain subjects that are more like I don't know if buzzwordy is the correct way to say it, but there's definitely I would say topics that pop more in terms of views than maybe some others. But that doesn't mean that that conversation that you had about this niche thing is any less important just because it doesn't get as many clicks. So
Sure.
that's what's nice about
Mhm.
a podcast too, is that it's not like I understand that it's time and there is resources that go into it, but it's not like it's not this crazy thing that takes up your whole full-time job. Some podcasters on really big platforms, I totally understand it, but we all do it as kind of a side project. So I like how you said that because, yeah, I've definitely had certain topics that blow up. Anytime I talk about pathways, seems to get a lot of listeners. And then I'll talk to
Right.
someone about a really specific program somewhere, and I feel a little bit bad, but I think that just getting it out there and getting some people to listen to it, it could very well help them. Maybe they're thinking about a certain program that they want to get off the ground, and they didn't know that this existed at another institution. So now they have someone to talk to about it. So I think you're still doing
Yeah.
diligent work. Yeah.
Agree.
Thanks. We try. We try.
So I have one more specific question for you both, and we kind of alluded to it earlier, but are you guys excited that this year the OTC conference is going to be on Franklin's campus?
Yes, of course.
I am. We
Yeah,
did we did like a little tour with the event
yeah,
not staff, the event committee members, I guess.
yep,
Um and I think one of the things with Franklin is that since we are known for online, people don't recognize the fact that we have an actual campus. It's very beautiful. And so it's very cool to show people like, oh, we can do this here, we can do this there, and to hear the comments like, this is a good space, this is really pretty, oh, this works perfectly. So I'm excited about people getting to see Franklin,
yeah.
all my OTC friends. from all over the state getting to see where we are.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the auditorium was just redone, what, 6, 7 months ago? So it looks beautiful.
I haven't been on Franklin's campus, I think, since pre-pandemic. There was like a state thing that went on that I went down. So I'm excited to see it again. Franklin has been super accommodating with everything. So it was nice because we were kind of workshopping whether we wanted to keep it a one-day conference or kind of extend it out. And this is the year that we're going to try extending it out. And Franklin has been more than accommodating. So aside from the spaces being nice, like the staff have also been extremely good to us, and we're really excited to bring people down. And then hopefully we'll have another good social this year and stuff between. So hopefully a few more people will even come to that, since the conference is going to kind of be starting a day early. So
I'm looking forward to the social. Jonathan
yes.
set the bar for a good social, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yep. Not mine this year, but Amanda's going to kill it too. So
Yep.
I won't have to run it this year. So I'll probably just be in the background having more fun this time around.
Right.
Exactly.
Even though last year I stayed out till like midnight, so I still had quite a bit of fun.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, you don't see
But
people
hey,
for
good.
a year, it's a fun time. But-
That's true. Very true.
So is there anything else either of you would like to add that you think that we missed today about Franklin or the Pathway Portal, the podcast, anything? You can
I know.
say
I'm trying to
no.
think. I
You can
know.
say no. It's totally fine.
I'll give a little shout out to Franklin and our supervisor for even letting us do the podcast, because Jennifer and I had no idea what we were doing. Honestly, we probably still don't. And, they've just kind of been like, yeah, let's try it out and see. And it has been a lot, Jonathan, you can attest to it. It's fun. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to work for an institution that's like, sure, you can do that, at least for a little bit.
Right. See how it
Till we
goes.
figure out you don't know what you're doing. No, we know what we're doing. Just kidding. But yeah, so that part I think has been we've been very lucky to get that opportunity.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
a nice
good too to work for an institution that is so transfer friendly. We're very mindful of cost for students. We're always trying to find ways to help save money, transfer as much credit as possible, and just be as accommodating as we can be.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming on to my podcast this time around. I really appreciate it. We'll try to have a few more kind of before the conference. We'll probably do one about the conference once we get more of the final details set. So keep an eye out for that. But other than that, I'd like to thank Jennifer and Erika again for coming on with me. I super appreciate you both, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.